Hello. Sorry, it took a little bit of time to sort things out, guys. I've seen your comments in the live chat. Let's just have a look and just acknowledge the people that have been sitting there. Joan, hope you are well. Same with John. Hope you're all well there. Andy's in the building. He made a suggestion a little bit earlier on the Hammers chat group, WhatsApp group, and don't get me started. No, it's just technology, mate. It is what it is. I've got a very special guest. He's sitting in the green room as we speak now. Before I get into that, usual thing, little bit of housekeeping. Please don't forget to like, comment on, and share the stream, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, we thank you very much indeed for your support. Now, we're obviously here to discuss the match that took place last night at the Ramon Sanchez-Pizjuan Stadium. I think I pronounced that right. We went down 1-0. I think it was a decent enough performance against a quality team in this competition, it has to be said. I've got someone sitting in the green room. Although I say that, I'm looking at the green room and the screen's gone blank, and I'm a little bit concerned by that. But oh, he's back. Now, he's making his forged debut. So please make him welcome, guys. He is, for any of you guys, and I know Andy in the chat, you're on the group chat, the Hammers chat WhatsApp group. So you'll recognize this guy, or maybe not by face, but you'll recognize the name. Charlie, how are you, sir?
I think you're talking to me, Gatesy, but I can't hear anything for some reason.
Oh no. It's all gone a little bit Pete Tong again. Oh, he's gonna have he's dropped out. That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. Hopefully you'll be able to make a return. Hammerhead, hope you're well, mate. For those of you that are not aware and you're sort of asking the question why no Duke? Why's he got Charlie sitting alongside him? Well, I did. Basically, Duke is you probably know that he's into his sort of country and western music. He's got this event that he's going to at the O2. He's going to be there for most of the weekend, so he won't be available for the post-match for the Seville game. He's not going to be available for the pre-match for Villa, but he will be back for the post-match for Villa. So Charlie's back in the green room, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. We've got sound and pictures. He's giving me a thumbs up, so I'm going to bring him back in. Are we good?
I think so. It sounded like you was drunk just then, which you might be. But...
No, I'm being a good boy. I've just got a cup of tea here, mate, and I've actually also got a water as well, so doubling up. So
very good, very good.
But, so you obviously join us, and the reason I got you in is because you were one of a select bunch of West Ham fans that actually got tickets for the game yesterday.
Yeah. I was actually quite surprised when it went so low, because I think it was down at 10 to 15 points, something like that.
Really?
So yeah, it went quite low. Obviously, it was quite short notice. But yeah, luckily I've done a few away games over the last couple of years, and well, apart from COVID, I managed to, I think I got 40, 46, 47, 48 points, something like that. So yeah, I've got a ticket. Was a bit late to the flights and hotel, so it cost me an absolute fortune, unfortunately. But oh well, you do these things, didn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, over here.
We haven't played a knockout game. We haven't played a European knockout game since 1981. So
well, that was before my time.
Exactly. So you got to take it while it's on offer. Who knows? It might be. I mean, what's that? That's, well, it's a long time. What's that? 30, sort of like 30, 40 years.
Yeah, well, I'm nearly 30, and it was a long time before I was born.
Yeah,
so it must be 40 plus.
Yeah, so you never know. I mean, hopefully it won't be that long before we play our next. I mean, well, we know our next game of European knockout football is going to be Thursday.
Only about 5 days.
Yeah. But beyond that sort of thing, hopefully it'll come around again a little bit quicker than that. But
so we can pull it around in the season or
yeah,
in the league and get in there next year, whether it's the Mickey Mouse League or whatever.
European football. Listen, if it's the Conference League, I'm not going to turn my nose up to it. I've got to tell you.
Nah, definitely not. Definitely
So
not.
anyway, I'm just going to get up on screen. I'm just going to get rid of that banner, and then I'm going to bring this in. So this was the team. I'll tell you what, I'll go full screen with it. Just take that off. So that was the team that David Moyes took onto the pitch against Seville last night. Now, I got all of in the pre-match, I gave my lineups and I got all of the personnel right. I didn't, however, envisage a slight change in the shape. What were your thoughts when that lineup and system were deployed? Were you sort of surprised or?
Yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, I didn't see it till about 5 minutes before kickoff.
Really?
Yeah, well, there was the whole, you've probably seen on Twitter, but the marching through Seville to the ground, which was an event. And then, so that by the time we got to the ground, there was more security than the Tower of
Tell us a bit
London.
about that walk, Charlie, because obviously I don't know whether everybody's seen that. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but there might be
Mm.
people that are watching this that are not quite aware.
Well, I don't think it was as far as I was aware, it wasn't planned. There was a load of West Ham fans in various bars, sort of down in the city centre of Seville,
Hmm.
and everyone was just going about their business, having a few drinks before the game, and then all of a sudden, not not with any trouble. There wasn't any trouble for the whole day.
Yeah.
We all saw what happened the night before, but for yesterday there was no trouble. But the police decided, right, time to move on. Got the horses and the whistles out and said move along. So as I say, it wasn't planned. It was just the police said, right, on you go. Time to get to the ground. And yeah, marched just from where everyone was in the bars to the ground.
Generally speaking, I mean, you say the police, but there wasn't no heavy-handed tactics that were employed. It was all, firm but fair treatment, would you say?
Yeah, no, yeah, you get a couple of idiots, not idiots, but trying to push their luck.
Yeah.
But no, there was I don't know the geezer, but there was a geezer a West Ham fan at the front of it, just trying to say, let's play along, um, behave, and yeah, there was no problems
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But so the lineup when you saw what was
Mm.
announced, was that pretty much what you was expecting, or was there any sort
Yeah,
of curveballs?
I think it's what we've seen for the last few weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I kind of agreed that I think Areola deserves to be in there. I think it's much of a muchness who you prefer for number one, but Areola's done good enough to this point in Europe, so I always thought he deserved the start, and then the rest of it is much of a muchness. Really, I guess the only surprise in there really is Vlasic, but it was a 50-50 between him and Ben Rama, and neither have set the world on fire, have they?
No, I think either one of them. You're right. You could have made a case. I mean, Ben Rama fans would have said obviously their man. Vlasic fans would have said their man, and anyone that's a bit more sort of like apathetic about either one of them would have just sort of shrugged their shoulders and said, "I don't care, whoever it takes to the pitch. I just want them to do a job." It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think probably it would have it. We've been thinking about it before the game. It's probably an easy guess to suggest that it was probably going to be Vlasic, away tie, European big night against a massive side. I think Moyes and well, everyone probably spent Vlasic a little bit more defensively and work rate wise. That's easy to say. Than perhaps a bit more spicy football of Ben Rama. So I think it was probably a predictable choice by Moyes.
Do you think that the events that took place when he got substituted against Newcastle, do you think they've counted against him in any way, or do you not think that Moyes would hold that against Ben Rama?
I'm not so sure on the second bit. I think Moyes is the one he's perfectly capable of a grudge or a long time. What's the word? Stubbornness. But I don't think we would have. If that had never happened, I don't think we would have seen any different in the last few games with Benrahma. I think he would have been on the bench here and there, played here and there. But when it really comes to the crunch games, Moyes clearly doesn't trust him defensively.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, are you a Benrahma fan, or are you sort of like not too sure?
He's not done enough, that's for sure. I wouldn't say I'm a Benrahma fanboy, but I don't particularly think he's been terrible. I think him and Vlasic, obviously he's had a bit longer, but him and Vlasic both have done meh. With it, they've not done terribly. They've not done brilliantly. I think Benrahma's obviously had a little bit longer, and it's probably time now that he comes good. But yeah, I don't dislike him. I think he's a decent player, and I guess my enjoyment with seeing him on the pitch is I like to see more than one attacking player on the pitch. I think with that lineup, you probably class Fornals and Vlasic and what we saw last night sort of back this up. They're more doing a defensive job than going forward. Obviously, they go forward, but it might just help us score a few more goals. One, if we could hit the back of the net with some really easy chances, but two, to have a bit more of that attacking flair on there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that sort of kind of concerns me is you look at the last two games, and Kent's in the chat there, and he's said it on his social media platform is for the second game in a row, we couldn't finish our dinner, I think was the phrase he used on his Facebook page. And he's absolutely spot on. You know, we've had two games where we've had 3 chances against Liverpool. I would say at least that against Seville, and we've not managed to score a goal out of any of those chances, and that is quite disappointing. Now, whether the absence of Bowen is critical as far as yesterday's game is concerned, arguably yes, because he's been, along with Antonio, he's been our most prolific goal scorer this season. So you take him out of the equation, and that's obviously not going to be an advantage for us, clearly. But even so, it's like, come on, someone needs to just put the ball in the old back of the net, and we just couldn't do it. And obviously, yesterday, it's our 3rd defeat in a row, which I don't know if that's happened in this. Certainly not since Project's restart after COVID.
Doesn't happen often, lockdown. That's for sure.
I can't remember the last time we lost 3 in a row under Moyes.
No, it's not one I can remember off the top of my head. I'm sure it probably has happened at some point, but it doesn't happen often. A bit like getting smashed. I can't remember the last time we got absolutely walloped. So I think we are a bit tighter and don't give a lot away. But yeah, it's such a difficult run though. We've had Liverpool, we've had Seville, 2 big teams, and like you say, I kind of give a little bit of grace to Fornals for his chance, although I don't know why he chipped it. The Lanzini one against Liverpool and the Vlasic one last night were just under sevens football. You'd expect them to score that.
Fair enough. Okay, let's get on to the Seville lineup now. A few names that might be familiar. I'll go full screen with that just real quick. As far as sort of like names that might be familiar to most sort of West Ham fans or Premier League fans generally, obviously Youssef En-Nesyri was playing as the striker, who's a name that's been linked with us in the past. Did he impress you? And you know, do you think he's a viable option maybe to go for again in the summer should that come to pass?
He didn't stand out. He didn't stand out to me. He's obviously one that Moyes has mentioned previously when he doesn't often mention players by name. But when a player turns around and says, "I've got no interest in coming," I'm not sure that's worth wasting our time on again this summer. It wasn't like he was Messi last night. I mean, he won a few headers, but that was about it.
Yeah, I mean, Navas at right back is obviously the former Man City player. Was there any sort of player that was there that stood out? I mean, obviously El Haddadi scored the only goal of the match. Was there any players? Did he stand out for you other than the goal, or who impressed you?
I think out of the two, and it's probably, or out of the whole team, the two that impressed me were probably the left back Acuna and Jules Koundé. That's easy to say. They are probably the biggest. Well, certainly Koundé is probably the biggest name, but he looked unreal at centre back. So comfortable on the ball.
Yeah,
More comfortable on the ball than most of our attacking players. Certainly one of our midfielders as well. But not really. Not really. They didn't. There was none of them that struck fear into us or made me worry every time they got on the ball.
yeah. So what was your thoughts? Because obviously I would suggest in the first half, certainly, I got to be honest, I was watching it in Duke's pub down in Lewisham, and he and I both looked at each other when the halftime whistle went, and we were more than happy with that performance. Watching it on the telly, what was the general consensus amongst the West Ham faithful in the stadium itself?
I think I spent most of the halftime speaking to the guy next to me, just trying to work out how he wasn't 1-0 up from that Vlasic chance or the Antonio air kick. Generally, I thought it was pretty good. It seemed to fly by the first half. I don't know if that was just because we was there, but yeah, I thought we were playing well. I thought we probably, and it was probably a theme that went throughout the game, to be fair. But I think we had the best chances. We just didn't have loads of chances. And they did have quite a lot of chances, but a lot of it was a long shot.
They were sort of like half or quarter chances, wouldn't they, really?
Yeah, half chances, lots of long shots. I think there was probably within the first, was it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they had a couple of headers that you'd expect their striker or midfielder to do better on. But I thought we was more than in it at half time, if not the better team.
Yeah. To be honest, I think we were the better team as far as I was concerned, because I think we had, as you say, we had the clearer cut opportunities. Yes, we didn't take them, and obviously we sit here now with a 1-0 deficit after the first leg, and we rue them. Although it's not as big a deal in a way, a 1-0 defeat away from home, as I would suggest it would have been, say, last season, the season before, because obviously now what has to be factored in is the away goals rule isn't something that's now a factor. So, in the past, you would have said you'd rather a 2-1 defeat than a 1-0 defeat, at least. But now that's not the case, is it?
No, I think that probably favours us not having to go out here and get an away goal. So it's probably, and to be honest, I said before the match that I'd take a 1-0 defeat. I didn't think we'd play as well as we did. Maybe I thought we'd play as well as we did. I thought they would play better, and I thought they would be better. Getting at half time, sort of 60 minutes in, or up until whenever they scored, I wouldn't have taken a 1-0 because I thought we was going to go on and get a goal. Obviously, we didn't, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. We're still in the tie, certainly still in the tie, and we take it back to Stratford Bowl next week, and have to go all guns blazing.
In the second half, there did seem to be, I would suggest, a phase between, say, minutes 55 and 75. I would say around about a 20-minute chunk of the second half that Seville noticeably put their foot on the accelerator and carved open some good chances and all the rest of it. Do you feel that was the case, or do you think it was a drop off from us? What was your perspective in that little phase of the second half where they started to exert a little bit of dominance? Where do you think it went away from us in that period, which proved so crucial?
Yeah, so I'd have to caveat with this with saying this is all based on what I can remember from yesterday, and I've not watched any highlights or any content of the game. Usually, I would have watched the game highlights at least, if not second time by now. But it being there, it felt like we just couldn't get hold of the ball at that period. I know exactly the period you're talking about. I don't feel like they created loads, and I don't feel like they created that great of opportunities. but we just kept giving the ball back to them. And I think, unfortunately, our best player last season, over the last few weeks, few months, has just been letting us down a little bit in the middle of the park. Obviously, Thomas Souček. And there was probably a period of 5-10 minutes where he probably lost the ball probably 8 or 9 times.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't losing the ball, it was taking the easy option with the pass to go backwards or to go 5 yards to Rice. And it's getting to the point now where we've got to do something different with Souček, whether that's taking him out of the team as a whole or playing him somehow different. I don't know. That's a problem for Moyes to sort out. But so many times yesterday, he just couldn't get hold of the ball, and his technical ability is actually quite poor. And I don't think any of us would have said that last season when he was scoring 10, 12 goals or whatever he got.
Yeah. Got a question here from Mark. I'll fire this to you if I may. He says, do you think Rice's role yesterday was driven by his illness and getting him through 90 minutes? I've heard this, a few people have said this in a few conversations I've had, because it was quite noticeable that Declan Rice was sitting deeper and allowing Thomas Souček to go on those forays a little bit further up, which is kind of how it panned out last season in the main, but not so much this season. Do you think that was a factor in that, or do you think that was by design?
I think we've seen that in the last few weeks, even before Rice has been ill. We saw it a little bit at Liverpool and Wolves before that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw it in those games where Souček has got forward a little bit more and Rice has sat there in the middle a little bit more. And I think it's probably Moyes just trying to get a tune out of Souček again. He's still not getting forward enough for me. I can remember one attack where our centre forward was over on the right corner flag as he spends most or half his time, and then when he's not on the left corner flag, puts a ball in. There's just no one in the middle, and I think back to last season, Souček would have been in there and getting his head to that. But no, I think Rice's position changed in the last few weeks a little bit tactically to try and find a player in Souček again.
The chance that Souček had, do you think that Souček last season takes that opportunity?
The one that was saved by the keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame him too much for that one. I don't think he got it on target. He's hit it with power. I don't think there's too much more he can do with that. Put it low in the corner, it goes in. But I think last season we saw him, I don't know off the top of my head, but probably 80-90% of his goals were in the box, headers or tap-ins or sort of instinctive ones.
Arriving late.
Yeah, I don't remember too many long shots. So I think he's done all right with that chance. It was a good effort. It was a good save, I think.
Do you, if I was to put you in the shoes of David Moyes, obviously you say that you've been quite disappointed with Thomas Souček's performances by and large, which I think is completely fair given what he was last season. Would you start him in the second leg? And if not, who would you bring in?
It's tough because there's not many options. It's certain. I don't think there's no point saying Alex Crowell because it's just not going to happen. We don't know what he can do. We've not seen enough of him. So realistically, the only option is Mark Noble. And I think Mark Noble done quite well against Liverpool when he come on, to be fair. I would like to maybe see Mark Noble play next to Rice and then put Souček in the sort of further forward of the three in the middle. Give that a try against Villa and then see what happens next week. I wouldn't be adverse to taking Souček out completely next week on Thursday because I just don't think he gives us anything at the moment. And anything that he does give us is giving the ball away over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think it'd have to be Noble.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I would say Thomas Souček is that's not a strength of his is his passing. His strength is more sort of like arriving late, as I said, arriving late in the box, getting on the end of moves, and putting the ball in the back of the net. When he's not doing that, if you're thinking you're going to be getting some sort of playmaking midfielder, he's that's not his game. He's not got a very good range of passing, if we're being honest. If you look at his pass completion percentages, they're somewhere between bang average and poor.
Yeah, I had this conversation with someone earlier today.
Yeah, probably the only thing that you can say he's not going to let you down as he's gonna cover every blade of grass, to be fair, and he's going to win his fair percentage of aerials. But other than that,
yeah, I had this conversation with someone earlier today and said if there's a scale between the best playmaker in the world and then the worst, Sujak's very much near the worst on that rank. As you say, his passing wasn't great last season. Let's not pretend it was. But he was giving us 10 goals to compensate for losing the ball. If you're not getting them goals, you're not really getting a lot.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But it has to be said that despite the fact it obviously finished a 1-0 deficit, you got to say we're still in this tie, and we've taken we've made a team that has won this competition 6 times. We've made them work bloody hard, and that's coming on the back of making another quality team in Liverpool absolutely dig deep and get 3 points against us at Anfield.
Yeah,
so it's reason to be optimistic, surely.
Definitely, you could easily look at the last few games and be a bit negative, but no, certainly I think it was Wolves before Liverpool, wasn't it?
Well, it was the Southampton game, wasn't it? Wolves, Southampton.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Liverpool.
I've erased that from my memory. That was a horrible.
Yeah. I don't blame you, Charlie, because you went there as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done a few miles the last week or so. It was down to Southampton on that Wednesday night, up to Liverpool on the Saturday, and then over to Sevilla on a Tuesday. I think ignoring that Southampton game, because I don't even know what happened there. But I think Wolves, Liverpool, even the first half of Southampton, to be fair, and last night, there's plenty of reasons to be positive. We've gone up against a really good side in Liverpool, and arguably, I haven't seen the stats or the XG, but I can imagine our XG was just as good as Liverpool's, if not better. And on another day, we win that game, let alone draw it. Last night again, we've gone away to second in La Liga and won this competition 6 times in the last 10 years or whatever it is, maybe a bit longer. So we've given them a right game. We're still in the tie. We've got hopefully Bowen to come back next week. They've got a lot of players to come back, which worries me a little bit. I think they've got 9 out last night. And
although they've got Ocampos out because of that booking he got towards the end.
Yeah, that's positive. I think Lamella's still out, isn't he? Because he's not registered. But apart from that, of the 9, I think most are due back in the next or before Thursday. So they're going to have a better team. They're going to be a lot better. We need to be a lot better and more to get an early goal. Get an early goal on Thursday, and we're right back in it.
If I try and find a reason to be positive, one thing that I've looked at in the last, I would say 3-4 games, despite the fact that the results haven't been what we all want, I'm going to bring it up on screen because Troj mentioned it earlier. Do you agree with that statement? Because I think that he is starting to look like the player that we know that he is and that we want him to be. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think these last few performances have been much, much closer to the Antonio that we saw at the start of the season. He's troubling defenders. It still frustrates me that we see crosses go in all the time where he's supposed to be the one in the box and actually he's the one putting the cross in. But yeah, certainly he gave Van Dijk a hell of a game on Saturday. And I think he just needs a proper Antonio goal. He obviously got that one against Southampton, which was a bit of a he couldn't miss. I'm saying that we couldn't miss a few.
You say that
he shouldn't have missed, and he got that tap in. But he needs one of those goals, and he nearly got it right at the start of the game last night, from what I can remember. although he just knocked the ball on a little bit too far and smashed it in the side netting. I do wonder. I'm not one for advocating 4-4-2 or two strikers up front, particularly because I think it's quite old-fashioned and out of date and doesn't really work. But even if we tried something along the lines of Antonio on the left and Vlasic up front, even a Souček up front, I've heard people say, I'm not sure about that, but it's difficult having only one striker. But Antonio's not playing like a striker, if you ask me. He's playing much better, and his performances is a lot higher level than what it was 6-8 weeks ago. But he's still not playing as that centre forward that we need.
So but he's heading in the right direction, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think maybe Bowen coming back, if he's taking up those central positions, then gives Antonio the freedom to go left, go right. I'd love to see his heat map from last night again, because it felt like he didn't touch the ball in the penalty area. I know there was the heat maps a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember who it was against, but where he was all over the place apart from the penalty box.
Was that the Newcastle game? I got a funny feeling it might have been Newcastle.
Yeah, quite possibly. But it felt like that again last night. I'm sure he did touch it in the box, but yeah, it's the same old story, isn't it? Same old. Feel like a broken record every time I speak about West Ham. We just need a striker.
Yeah,
here's one. Simple.
Here's one from Budgie from Green Street Elite. And if anyone hasn't already done so, please nip over there and give him a subscribe and share the love. He says we shouldn't underestimate Villa or play a weakened side. In his opinion, we need those 3 points. Again, if I put you in David Moyes, or I'll tell you what, let's forget about putting you in David Moyes' shoes. Let's put Charlie Woodgate, the West Ham manager. Do you put out a weakened team against Villa, or do you go strong in both matches?
It's so tough. The easy answer is to say it's all about Thursday. Sunday doesn't matter. But then we need a backup of, well, we need to prepare as though we may not win this competition. Therefore, our only chance of getting into Europe is through the league. That's getting a hell of a lot tighter. I'm confident we'll finish above Wolves. God, that's going to get clipped at the end of the season when they're above us. I think we'll finish above Wolves, but every point matters in trying to finish above either Spuds or United. So I don't think I'd love to say forget Sunday, throw it, and give away, be prepared to lose the 3 points, but I just don't think we're in a position to be able to do that if we want European away days next season. So I think we have to go full strength and trust that the boys can do 2 90 minutes or 3 90 minutes in a week.
I'd be interested to know your opinion on, and it's something he's done a few times, David Moyes, and hands up, I'm a David Moyes fan. Do I think he's the perfect manager? No, I don't, but I think that he's the best manager that we can realistically hope to have, and he's done a fantastic job and all the rest of it. But something that I just does my head in, and I didn't understand this yesterday, and like I say, not the first time he's done it. 93rd minute, he brings on a substitute in Arthur Masuaku, and what was it, 20 seconds later the final whistle goes. I'm just sitting there and going, what the hell's that all about? I mean, what was you sort of like looking at that same as me and going, that just makes no sense?
I didn't realise it was that late, to be honest, until the whistle went. I thought we might have had a couple of minutes because obviously the clocks in the stadium stop at 90, don't they? I think my thought at that time, and I still probably think now, that was Moyes saying, we'll take the 1-0, let's waste a bit of time and get it back. Did he even touch the ball? I don't think he did.
No, I don't think he did. Like I say, I think it was about 20 seconds between him coming onto the pitch and the final whistle actually going. It was just like, what was the point?
It's not a tactical decision attacking wise. It's not really a tactical decision defensive wise. I think it was just a time wasting substitution. So let's cut our losses and we'll take a 1-0 back. So Sevilla were in the ascendancy for most of that second half.
Yeah, fair
Oh,
enough.
you're preaching to the choir, Mark.
I knew
If you
that'd
took,
get a reaction.
yeah, if you talk to anyone I sit around at the game, whenever Arthur Masuaku starts warming up, you get some
No.
interesting comments from myself.
Oh. Do you want to do player ratings?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so we'll start with Alphonse Areola between the sticks. Marks out of 10, and they've got to be whole marks, no half marks here.
What about quarter marks?
No.
Okay. I can't remember him having to do that much. I
And
think
you
he made
guys,
a couple of.
sorry to interrupt, Charlie. You guys in the live chat, if you want to get your personal marks in, please feel free to do so. Sorry, Charlie.
That's all right. My benchmark score is probably a 7, and I don't think Areola did anything outrageously good to get above that or bad to get below that. So I'd probably go 7.
Okay. Well, Mark's gone with a 6. Sharky's gone with a 7. I was on with Peach a little bit earlier, and from memory, I think I get Of course you can. I'm trying to remember. I think I gave him a 6. Did I give him a 6 or a 5? Budgie will probably tell me because my memory's crap. But I think I marked him as a 5 or a 6 because I was like, well, he did what he needed to do. There was no real proper saves that he had to make, was there? I think there was one header that came in, but to be honest, it was strong hands. He caught it, but it was like, listen, that's really, he should be he would probably make that save, make that catch 999 times out of 1,000. Probably the 1,000th time he might spill it, but other than that, he should be getting hold of that and it sticks. He says I did give him a 6. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I mean, I think he did what he needed to do when he needed to do it, but he wasn't asked to do very much for me.
No, yeah, probably the only plus mark I give him, and he gets it every game he plays. To be honest, is it really frustrates me when Fabianski just is stuck to his line on corners and free kicks, and Areola doesn't mind coming off his line and catching. He claimed a couple of corners, I believe. So I think that's probably where I would disagree with that comment, but very respectfully, and I can understand anyone that says Fab over Areola. I think it's more long term, so I don't think any West Ham fans believe he's going to be here next season.
Fair. Okay, let's go Aaron Cresswell.
It's going to be a lot of middling 6s and 7s in this, isn't it? It was one of those performances where no one done anything really good, no one really done anything terribly bad, but he had a few corners and a few crosses. I'd probably give him a 7 again.
I gave him a 6. Anton, hope you're well, mate. I gave him a 6. I thought defensively he was sound. I thought that offensively he didn't get forward much. That might have been not necessarily a slight on him. It might have been more that Sevilla just didn't give him the opportunities as he otherwise would have liked. The one thing that he lost a little, he sort of got me going, oh, what are you doing that for? He took a corner in the first half, didn't he? And it bent out and came back in, didn't it? And obviously went out for a goal kick. And that frustrated the life out of me.
Yeah, as I said, not watched any highlights or reruns, but yeah, you're right. I've just remembered that, and he can go down to a 6 because that really wound us up.
Yeah, it was just so
unnecessary.
I don't know
why we're doing outswing corners.
Yeah, but there you go. Let's go over to the other side. Ben Johnson.
Again, I've seen a lot of people say he was man of the match. He probably was one of the best players. He didn't do anything wrong. It's questionable going forward, but I thought that was probably one of his best performances going forward last night. He put a few balls in and they looked like proper crosses rather than just hitting hopes that I've done in recent weeks. I've probably gone a bit higher with some of these because I think the benchmark should be a 6 and Johnson should be a 7, but based on what I've done already, I'll go 8 for Johnson.
I've gone 8 and I gave him man of the match. I think that defensively, superb, absolutely superb tackles, and just did his job. Kept his side of the defense, kept the door shut. I do think that offensively, and I was having this conversation earlier on West Ham Random. Once again, if you haven't already, please go over there on YouTube and put in West Ham Random. Give Peach a subscribe. Again, share the love. Where he falls down for me, and where I think he's not quite on the same level as some of his contemporaries, the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, is offensively he doesn't offer enough. You know, he doesn't go on the forays when he gets the opportunity as much as I believe he should, and when he does, the quality of his delivery is sadly lacking for me. So I think he loses a mark for that. But that being said, I think he was our man of the match. I'm going to give him an 8.
I could see him turning into a Cresswell like right centre back. Obviously not with the same level of delivery, but if you're in that centre back position, you've got a little bit less pressure to put those balls in. I don't think he can. This is probably not going to be popular from most of the West Ham fans because he is homegrown. I don't think he can be a long-term fullback in the Premier League if you're playing 4 at the back or 5, to be honest.
Fair enough. Craig Dawson, what was your thoughts on him?
Average. Certainly not one of his best games. Not one of his worst. Probably a 6. It's probably one. I don't think he did anything. And as I say, I can't. I won't recall. Can't recall all of it, but I'd probably give him a 6. I don't remember him doing anything outrageously bad that cost us. I think there was one break that I remember that he just loses his man because he's too slow. But yeah, I'd say a 6.
Fair. I gave him a 5. Part of it was for what Trodger said there. I thought his passing wasn't really on point. But that being said, that's not really a strength in his game at the best of times anyway. But the strength of his game is in the air. He's usually quite dominant. I felt a couple of times he got outdone in the air. So I gave him a 5.
Remembering back to one of his famous long balls where he just kicks it out for a throw-in. That's I can understand why he'd go that, and people say his passing's crap because he's not very good.
Yeah, and listen, you know, an awful lot of defenders passing isn't their forte, and that's fine. You know, not everyone's a Bobby Moore, not everyone's a Rio Ferdinand or anything like that. But if your forte is aerial dominance and you don't display that, then what else have you got? Do you know what I mean? And that's not. Yeah, I'm not being critical of Craig Dawson. I think that when you listen, we've got to say it as it is. We invested 2-3 million quid on the geezer. Has he been a value money for signing for us? Oh my God, yes. No doubt about it.
Put it this way, you should never, and this isn't a slight on him because he's earned it through how he's performed for us and also lack of options. But he should never, if we're in this position, start first game against Sevilla in Europa League for round of 16. Craig Dawson should not be on the team sheet for the first 11.
He must be pinching himself.
Yeah, I mean, we got him from relegated Watford.
Watford, yeah.
It was Watford in the Championship. Couldn't get game for them in the Championship. It worries us a little bit that we're in a position where Craig Dawson is starting for us in the Europa League round of 16. But he's certainly been probably one of the best value for money signings we've made in recent years.
The one thing I will say to give Craig Dawson his dues, I know I'm marking him down, but it came out a couple of days ago that he's been playing for quite a while with an injury. Now, who was it? Who else was it that was doing? I think Ogbonna did that a few seasons ago, didn't he? He played through an injury, and everybody was sort of like saying at the time that his performances weren't quite at the level that they were. And then it came out that he had a long-standing injury, and because I think we were fighting a relegation battle at that point, if I remember rightly. I think that was in David Moyes' first stint,
Yeah,
and
I
when
think
we
you're
were
right.
clear of the relegation, he then went under the knife and had the operation done. And it was, so I will give Dawson due credit and say he's playing through an injury. You know, if we had a depth of quality defenders that could play that role, then maybe he might have been taken out of the firing line to get the injury sorted out, healed up, whatever. But we don't. So he's probably playing because he's got no bloody choice. It's either that or you put Diop in, and then, well, who's your backup if Diop or Zuma get in? You're like, do you know what I mean? It's this is where having a thin squad is a bit tricky.
Yeah, he very much reminds me of not Craig Dawson. He is Craig Dawson. James Collins vibe. Obviously, Collins had a bit more longevity with the club and the fans.
Yeah.
But let's not pretend James Collins was Maldini. But he'd put his body on the line. Craig Dawson reminds me a bit of him, really. He's not the best defender in the world, but he'll put his body on the line for the cause. And for a third, fourth choice centre back, it's all you can ask, really. And he's done a great job.
Yeah. How about what were your thoughts on his partner, Kurt Zouma?
Well, for me, there's 3 candidates for man of the match based on the game last night that I saw. I think Johnson's one of them, Zuma's another, and Rice was probably the other. I don't think there's any others that I would put in that contention. Not their best games from any of them 3, but I'd probably put them all on a par with Johnson with an 8.
Okay.
But
I gave Zuma a 6. I marked him down because he obviously made the foul that led to the goal, which I felt was a little bit of a needless foul, if I'm being honest. He then got booked in the process, which I then felt subsequently hindered his performance a little bit, because he knew that if I mistime a challenge here, I'm walking. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of if it hadn't been for that, I possibly would have marked him a 7, but he has to lose a mark for that. So I'm giving him a 6.
Yeah, I think the whole back 4 lost their head a little bit. Well, and the centre midfielders lost their head a little bit after that tackle, after the goal, and after Zuma's booking, and Zuma included. But that, just thinking back to that, how that foul was conceded was ridiculous. There was about 6 opportunities to clear the ball.
Yeah.
Put it out for a throw. And so I think all 3 of them involved, I think it must have been Cresswell, Zuma, and there was another one over there. I can't remember who it was, but all of them probably deserved docking a point for that catastrophe. But no, I thought he was, up until that point, I thought he was very good.
Fair enough. How about the captain, Declan Rice?
It's tough scoring Declan because the bar is so high.
Yeah.
And you judge a game like that, and it was nowhere near one of his best performances. So you think, how can it be an 8? But I thought he was probably one of the classiest players on the pitch in terms of on the ball. He went on a few of his driving runs. Didn't have loads of impact, didn't feel, but yeah, I'd probably give him a 7.5, round it up to an 8.
I'm trying to remember what I gave him earlier. It was either a 6 or a 7. Again, it's one of those. If you're judging him by the standards that we've become accustomed to seeing week in, week out of Declan Rice, it was probably, if we're being completely honest, a subpar performance.
Yeah.
Judged by those standards. Do you know what I mean? Judging it by the standards of your sort of
performance
normal,
and that performance only.
Yeah, it was probably decent enough, especially if you view that through the prism of the fact that, well, he's had a virus. We don't know how much that's taken out of him. He might have been in another situation. He might not have played yesterday, but yeah, I can't remember if I gave him a 6 or a 7. It was one of those. So yeah, I'll, if I'm feeling generous, I might give him a 7. If I'm feeling a little bit more stingy, then I might give him a 6. It's somewhere in that sort of ballpark. I'm sort of, umming and ahhing as to where I put him.
I felt like one of them. I can't. Apologies, I can't remember who said it, but one of those previous comments said he was different after the booking. I thought he was a man on a mission after the booking. He looked wound up and pissed off. Apologies, I don't know if we can swear on this channel.
Oh no, crack on.
Yeah,
Badgie's saying I gave him a 7. I knew it was a 6 or a 7.
But after that booking, I think he looked wound up and sort of tried to take the game by a scruff of the neck, and just needed someone around him to help him out a little bit. But
here's something I'll just cover off. You was obviously there, Charlie. I mean, Trosh just said harsh to book Declan Rice. Here's my thoughts on it, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Obviously, the player's gone down, and he's play acting. He's trying to sort of kill a bit of time. He's trying to maybe get a yellow card, whatever. Declan Rice grabs hold of the player to pick him up, and then he starts sort of like even more exaggerating, and all that. And I'm like, look, it's a soft yellow card, and I'm like, that he's going to do that. Don't put your hands on him. Seriously, just leave him there to sort of like feign injury and just look like a complete dick in front of everyone. He's got a yellow card. Now, obviously, Ocampos got a yellow card and he's now out of the second leg. And fair enough, Declan Rice isn't out of the second leg, so that's fine. My concern is more long-term, because if we get through against Sevilla in the second leg, but Declan Rice picks up another yellow card, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 yellow cards, whatever, but let's say, hypothetically, he gets to the threshold where he now misses the next match. That could be critical in the long term, couldn't it?
Yeah, so likewise, I could be wrong, but I think it's 3. And he's had one in the group stage. I think he's had one in the group stage. He's had one to last night. So, yeah, I think he is one away from a booking. I don't know if or when that resets. It could be a problem, but I think we need to get to that point before we can start thinking or worrying about that.
Yeah, I think you should just left him alone. Just why take the chance? You know what the geezer's got to do, because they all bloody do it.
Although if he'd left him alone, Ocampos will be in the starting 11 for the next game. So
there is that.
Maybe he knew that they both needed to get booked.
Yeah, fair enough. We're coming back to Mr. Thomas Souček now, Charlie.
If I'm being generous,
it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not his worst game. It's been plenty worse this season, I think. Probably, to be generous, give it a 4.
That's being generous. Wow. Yeah, I thought I was being generous. I think I gave him a 5.
Yeah, I think I'm being generous with a 4.
Wow.
Maybe it's confirmation bias, and it quite easily could be. But them players that you think he doesn't do this or he does that all the time, and then you notice it every time he does it. I'm a bit like that with Thomas Souček now, that every time he gives the ball away or has to go backwards because he can't get his feet sorted. I don't think there was any threat from him in the box. Yeah, I would go 4.
Fair enough. Manuel Lanzini, what were your thoughts on his performance?
I thought he was probably one of our better midfielders, better players even. Dictated the play. I'm still fuming with him after Liverpool. Still haven't got over that. But there was no real threat, and there was a few times when I thought, just shoot, and he tries a cute little ball that goes out for a goal kick or.
Pat, that's yeah, fair
that's
comment.
Generous. I'm not sure he does that.
Oh, well, you don't even have to tie your own bootlaces. My daughter plays football.
Slip-ons these days.
Yeah, I got stung because normally I'll go into Sports Direct and I'm a bit old school. I don't like sort of like all these coloured boots and all that bollocks. I'm like, listen, just a pair of.
I can see you're in a pair of bright pink ones.
No, you absolutely couldn't. You absolutely could not. I am just old school. Black boots, done. You know, pink boots, they're not going to make you play any better. They're not going to make you bend the ball any more than you otherwise would, or whatever, or play a better pass. It's complete, look at me bollocks. But we went to Sports Direct and we couldn't find a pair of boots that fitted my daughter and my daughter liked, except for this pair of boots, and they didn't have laces. So you imagine that, Pat. If you've got a pair of these boots, you don't get 4 for tying up your laces. So Jesus, you're really struggling then. So sorry, what was you giving Manuel Lanzini?
I'd go 7 for Lanzini. Yeah.
I think I gave him a 6. Now it was quite interesting because I was on a chat a little bit earlier, and if Budgie's still in the chat, he'll bear this out. There's a lot of people that said that Lanzini was quite disappointing yesterday. Now I can understand people having that because obviously as exactly what Troj says there, his finishing wasn't great. But one thing that I would say, and it's not the only metric I use, I'll get that straight out there in case people think I'm saying this is the only metric I use to judge a player. But I think it's quite important, is your pass accuracy. Now, Manuel Lanzini's pass accuracy last night was 91%, which I think is bloody good.
That's low for him. I think I saw a stat, must have been a few days ago, last week. He's in, I think he's top 1 or top 2 for pass accuracy throughout the whole season in the Premier League. I think he's mid-90s, which is outrageous when you think about it.
Yeah.
Over 30 games or whatever we've had so far. So yeah, I think his passing's brilliant, and it's not as if it's 2-yard passes to the centre midfielder next to him. He tries the audacious passes every now and then. So, but he brings us that control that perhaps Fornals and he who shall not be named again, because I don't want to get told I'm having a vendetta against him.
A lot of people say that.
Control. There's always one.
Oh yeah. I think I gave Manu a 6. I think I said that because of his passing was in my opinion on point. I know what you're saying, that sort of like for him 91% is below what he's giving this season, but even so, in the context of what everybody else produced, he was one of the better performers in that particular metric. But as I say, that's not the only thing that I use to mark a footballer out, but I just think that a fundamental part of playing football is being able to pass the football to your teammates and be able to do it more often than not successfully. His finishing wasn't good enough, though. He has to lose a mark for me. I'm pretty sure I gave him a 6. But again, not a catastrophic performance, but decent enough, but room for improvement. So, Pablo Fornals.
It's another one where I feel like he really lost control of the game for us a little bit, both himself and Souček. Probably not to the same extent. 5 would be extremely harsh, I think. I'd go 6. I think that's probably fair.
Yeah,
I think if you had three Lanzinis instead of Souček and Fornals, I think we have a lot better control over that game in the midfield.
Yeah. I mean, just looking here, Fornals, he had 1 shot during the game, but I look at this, and again, pass accuracy, he was at 66%. Now, for someone I actually consider, and I don't know your thoughts on it, I consider him to be one of the better passers of a football at the club. And given that, to be giving for every 3 passes you make, one of them goes astray, I don't think that's good enough.
It's not good enough. No,
I don't think that's good enough. I think I gave him a 6. I think he started the game. I thought the first half he looked decent enough, Second half, he just seemed to taper off to me. What was your thoughts watching it in the stadium?
Yeah, I think as we've already said, it was quite a bland performance from everyone in the second half. We didn't see much more going forward. I think a lot of that was to do with the control aspect of in that midfield of Fornals and Souček. Just losing that control, we lose the ability to dictate what's happening, and we're sort of just reactive to everything that Sevilla are throwing at us. But throughout the night combined, I think it was quite. There wasn't a lot going forward, and you would have had to do something very, very special to get a high mark in that forward line when it didn't really feel like, certainly in the second half, we had an attack at all from in the stadium. We got a close up of Fornals at the end of the game, or about 20 minutes after the final whistle. He came over because I think his mum and family were in the crowd.
Yeah, I saw that.
So he came over and did all the cross hammer sign and clapped the fans. So he gets a bit of credit for that. So that's why it's not 5.
Yeah. And he's a bloody hard worker. I mean, I'm saying that his passing wasn't good enough last night, and I stand by that because I think that he's, like I say, I think he is one of the better passers of a ball at the club. So to be giving a 66% pass accuracy, I just don't think is on par. That being said, the one thing you know you're going to get from Pablo Fornals is he's going to work his nuts off.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that original comment I made a little bit earlier where we said that two of the front three are workhorses and they'll put in the effort, but there's no real attacking flair in them, in Vlasic and Fornals, or certainly tactically in the last few games there hasn't been. I think they've probably both got it in them. We saw Fornals before he joined us at the under-21 championships. I think he scored an outrageous goal.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, he was top drawer in that tournament. I remember seeing him, and obviously we got him in the back of that. But Troger's just mentioned him there. We'll move over to Nikola Vlasic.
What did I give Fornals? A 5 or 6?
Yeah, I think you gave him a
memory's terrible.
I think it was a 5 or a 6.
We'll call it a 5 because
call it a 5. Yeah,
we'll call it a 5 because I think we'll go Vlasic was a 6. I don't think he did anything more particularly going forward, but I felt more confident with him on the ball than I did Fornals yesterday. I don't think he lost the ball anywhere near as much.
Really?
You're gonna tell me a stat that could prove me totally wrong. Yeah.
Do you want to know what his pass accuracy was? 50%.
All right, we'll call him a 5 as well then.
Yeah, I was shocked at that. I didn't realise it was as bad as that. So for every 2 passes he makes, one's going astray. And again, I mean, I think Fornals isn't great. I mean, that's terrible. Absolutely shocking.
As I say, I've not seen the highlights or the game again and not seen any stats, but it felt like that yesterday. It felt like we didn't have control over the ball. Souček was probably not very good either, but he may have done a few more passes. Rice was the only one that sort of when he gets on the ball, you're confident that we're not going to lose it.
Yeah, I gave Vlasic just a 6 because despite, and I know you sort of said earlier about the chance that he had, I actually thought, in my opinion, he reacted really well to the ball that came in on him, and he got the diving header away. I actually thought it was really good execution of the header for me, for a guy that's not he's not a target man. I thought he executed the header really well, and the only reason he didn't score, he got the header on target, which is all he can do, as far as I'm concerned. The only reason he didn't score was because the goalkeeper made a reaction save and he had strong wrists and got a good hand on it. I think if he scores that and we get 1-1, and it's all hypothetical. But if he scores that and we get, or we see the game out, because obviously goals change games. So we score that, we go 1-0 up. Who knows? We might win the game 1-0, 2-0. Who knows? But if he scores that, I would forgive him 50% pass accuracy, because if we got a win or a draw in Seville, I'd be like, yeah, who cares? He scored the goal. I'll give him a sort of like, I'll give him a sort of pass on that one, but he didn't. I would, like I say, I thought that the technique was good. I thought that the execution was good. But like I say, his pass stats were pretty poor. I think I gave him a 6, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm being generous. I don't know. But it's somewhere around a 6-ish, I would suggest, for Vlasic.
Yeah, as I say, I've not seen it back, but that, and I'll take your word from it that it was a good header and well executed. It looked harder to miss from where we was. That was obviously in the goal right in front of the away fans. In the first half.
Was looking straight at it then?
Yeah, so we were sort of in the corner flag
Yeah.
to the goalkeeper's right. It took me about 20 minutes after he missed to sort of stop going, how the hell has he missed that? But it looked like a sitter. But if you're saying it was just a good save, then I'll take your word for it. I think what's less forgivable is the air shot afterwards.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Fair point. Michail Antonio, what was your marking on him?
He's a tough one, isn't he? The air shot's probably a 2. Some of his running and battling and crossing and pace was probably an 8 or a 9. Presence in the box, almost non-existent. I'd probably give him a 7. I don't think he quite did enough to get an 8. If he doesn't knock that ball on too far in the first couple of minutes, yeah, I'd agree with that. That first couple of minutes where he's running through and just kicks the ball miles too far in front of him. If he just does a better touch there and has a shot on goal, he probably gets an 8. But yeah, I think it's a 7.
Yeah, I gave him a 7 earlier. I think that, like I say, yes, he didn't score. He didn't score against Liverpool. He obviously got a goal against Southampton, which, as you said yourself, it was probably more. It was probably easier to score than it was to miss. But the way he'd been playing in the previous couple of months to that, you could quite easily see him missing it anyway. But I do think that in the last 4 games or so, there have been definite signs of an improvement. Whether there's been a fitness issue, whether there's been a confidence issue, whatever it is, but it just looks like that he's starting to turn the corner. I think that his work rate was excellent. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, that I think that his presence around the penalty box was not what it probably could have been, but I can't fault him for his effort and work rate. So I'd give him a 7, no problem at all.
He'd probably get an 8 if he didn't walk straight down the tunnel at half time, full time.
Oh, did he?
That pissed a few people off. From
was there anybody else that buggered off down the tunnel straight away, or
not that I can
name
remember.
and shame?
There probably was. No, there probably was, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It was very noticeable that he just walked straight down there. Obviously, the usual suspects: Rice and Fornals and Dawson and all those sorts of guys. And Vlasic, Soucek, they all come over and applaud the fans, and Moyes came over, but maybe he needed a dump. I don't know, but
might have been on a promise. Who knows?
Maybe, but yeah, seems a bit silly to do that when 3,000 fans have travelled all the way
all that
Seville.
distance. Least you can do is acknowledge the fans. I think that's an absolute minimum.
It's not exactly Crystal
He's
Palace.
let himself down there.
Yeah, it's not exactly Crystal Palace in South London, is it?
Nah.
Although a lot nicer than Crystal Palace, put it that way.
If he scores 2 goals against Seville and we go through 2-1 on aggregate, would you forgive him?
Oh, you can have a 20 then.
Fair.
Yeah, we're all fickle.
Of course we are. course we are. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to ask you to mark all of the substitutes because I don't really think that you can give a mark to Arthur Masuaku for a 20-second cameo. But I will ask you for your...
I'd manage it.
Okay, go on then. Arthur Masuaku.
0. And that's not just based on the 20 seconds. That's based on the last 20 months, apart from 90 seconds at Chelsea or against Chelsea. Anyway,
Fair.
Ignore that joke on.
Mark Noble.
It's tough when they come on sub, but I thought he was good. I thought he dictated play. He's never going to have the legs that he used to have. But if he's just sitting in front of the back four, which I think he did when he came on yesterday, you can't give him an 8, but he didn't do anything wrong, so I'd probably go a 7.
Yeah, I think that's a fair marker. Again, pass accuracy was 93%, which, you know, is pretty good. It was a cameo performance. I mean, what was he on? 20 minutes, something like that, give or take. So
yeah, something like that. I'd give him a shot against Villa, even if it's to give Rice a rest. Although I've just said we can't rest anyone, but yeah, he looked back. He looked good against Liverpool when he came on. He looked good last night, so let's give him a go.
And your mate Benny.
I thought he looked quite good when he came on. Gave us a bit of that flair that I think we was missing for the whole game, and I think we've been missing for the last few games, even though we could have scored 3 at Liverpool. Again, didn't do anything special to get an 8, so I think I'd give him a 7.
Yeah, I think from memory, I think I gave him a 7 as well. I thought he looked bright. I thought he tried to make things happen. All right, didn't come off. He didn't score a goal. He didn't create a goal. But again, he had a limited time on the pitch, so you have to take that into account. I think he looked decent. I think he's possibly in that cameo. Has he done enough to maybe give David Moyes a little sort of nudge in the ribs and aligned with the sort of subpar performances of the two guys either side of Antonio to say to David Moyes for the ahead of the second leg, maybe you might want to put me in that front three, sort of like on the left of the front three, and I'll create something. I don't know. Only David Moyes knows the answer to that question. But I think that he came on and he had a go. I got to take my hat off to him for a guy that might be lacking in a little bit of confidence. He didn't look it last night.
No, it keeps seeming to put a negative spin on things. I don't mean to. But we seem to be getting a little bit of a pattern with our attacking midfielders, with leave Bowen out of it, but Vlasic and Lanzini and certainly Benrahma, they all seem to look good when they come on as a sub, and then they get a start and then don't really do much. I think we've seen that with Benrahma. I think we've seen that with Lanzini to an extent. I think there was a couple of games where he was excellent as a sub, gets a start and then hasn't really done a lot. And likewise, Vlasic, he's looked bright in a couple of games when he's come on and didn't really do much last night. So,
I mean, there's some players that are impact subs. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being a case in point, always looked like he was going to come on back in the day with Manchester United and score a goal. And very often did from the bench. In fact, I think he's got the Premier League record for most goals from the bench. But that being said, when he started, not quite as effective for whatever reason. Some players are just built like that. I don't know why.
Yeah. I think there's players in all. Well, certainly Lanzini, we've seen it even since the injury. But I think there's players in Benrahma and Vlasic. Whether we'll see it at West Ham, maybe not. We've seen players. One springs to mind, Europe's best goal scorer at the moment, or something like that we've seen at West Ham, who couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo, and he's now breaking all sorts of records. So
crazy, isn't it?
Maybe we'll see it at West Ham, maybe we won't.
That's one thing I will say. I think that David Moyes should have found a way to get the best out of Sebastian Haller, because you just look, scored goals for Frankfurt, is scoring goals for Ajax. He did score goals for us in the initial stages of Pellegrini era. I do think that he was a player that did suffer from the stylistic change from Pellegrini to Moyes. That what Moyes wanted him to do just wasn't his game, and he's actually been and said that in an interview since, and he didn't sort of like say it's all David Moyes' fault. In fairness to Sebastian Haller, he turned around and said it was just as much me as it was the sort of like the what the manager wanted from me. It's just one of those things, and I take my hat off to him. He was very, very open and honest. He didn't sort of bullshit and try and blame it all on David Moyes. He took his share of the responsibility for it just didn't work out.
Yeah, no, I read or listened to. I don't think I listened to. I read that interview, and it was a good interview. And it was, as you said, I think it was just one of those things where player didn't suit manager, manager didn't suit player.
Yeah,
it's like putting Lionel Messi into Sam Allardyce's Crystal Palace team. It's probably not going to be the same Messi you see at Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, is it?
All this tippy-tappy football, it's a load of bollocks.
Or Tony Pulis Stoke.
Yeah. Stick it in the mixer. Just before I sort of get your mark on David Moyes, what was the atmosphere like in the ground, says Sharky?
Oh, it was unreal. It's a strange one because it wasn't full. The home end wasn't full. There was probably...
No.
I don't know what...
Did you see any West Ham fans that snuck into the home end, do you reckon?
Ah, there was loads. Hundreds, if not more than hundreds. There was, right next to the away fans, there was probably a section of probably 100, 200 West Ham fans that were clearly West Ham fans.
Yeah.
In the Seville end, and it was fine. They seemed to get on well with the Seville fans. There was a lot of banter there. Obviously, it helped that they won and they didn't start trying to kick up a fuss. But yeah, there was West Ham fans dotted around the home stadium everywhere. A couple of my mates that come out here bought tickets in the home end and then got told to do one because they was so clearly English, West Ham and drunk. But yeah, that was all about. But yeah, is it 45,000 seat stadium, 50,000, something like that?
I'll tell you what, I will answer that question momentarily. 42,714.
Yeah, I don't know what the attendance was last night, but there was probably 5,000, 10,000 seats empty, so it wasn't even full. But
wow,
it was clearly by far the best atmosphere I've probably witnessed. Home atmosphere, anyway. Obviously, the away ends are a little bit different. Some of the ones we've seen this season against Leeds, the away end has been unreal, but home atmospheres, you don't really get them in the Premier League, do you? You don't. We've had a few with Molineux and Wolves. They tend to make a bit of a noise, but yeah, it was, especially when they scored, they was very good atmosphere. And it was good atmosphere in the away end as well. Obviously, we took 3,000 around the city. There was probably 5, 6. I think it might have even been Moose on TalkSport. I think he mentioned the figure of 8,000. So I don't know where he got that from, but there could easily have been 8,000 around the city. Everywhere you went yesterday or last couple of days, there was West Ham. Every McDonald's you walk past, there's Englishmen getting their Big Macs and with their West Ham tops on. So the atmosphere around the city for a start was just brilliant.
Only us English could go to Spain, and instead of sort of getting yourself a tapas or a paella or something like that, go straight to a McDonald's and get a Big Mac.
Yeah. I can't say anything. But McDonald's is like next to my hotel, and that was the first meal I had the first night I got here. So I can't say anything. But
fair.
I've somehow managed to book the hotel furthest away from Sevilla's ground possible, I think, and still be in Spain just about. That's made for some steps.
David Moyes, then your mark for Mr. Moyes, your assessment on the manager.
I think he done pretty much all he could. I don't think he could have done much more. We had to go into the game with the idea of keeping it tight and hopefully getting something on the break. But for better finishing, we would have scored a goal or two. As I say, I haven't seen it back, but I think Antonio probably could have done better with his first chance. Certainly should have done better with his air shot. And then obviously Souček has only got to go. His shot's only got to go a little bit left, a little bit right. Oh, we're winning, are we?
I don't know. That might even be the result. Could you let us know, Rob?
Okay.
Is that the result?
I don't know, even Chelsea's under 23s are useless now.
Chelsea get sanctioned everywhere they go.
Chelsea get bankrupt was the charge yesterday.
Oh, yes, I did see that one as well.
Yeah, I think probably an 8. I don't think you could go higher than that, given that we lost. But I don't. Yeah, as I say, better finishing. We win that game, if not draw it, or draw it if not win it. And I don't think he could have done much more.
Rob says that it's a latest score. It's not the result, so it's still ongoing. I'm torn between a 6 and a 7. I think that the lineup was I don't think that the lineup. I know that because it was exactly the same personnel that I picked in the pre-match that took to the field. I wasn't expecting the formation. I think that was. I actually think that was brave. I'm going to give David Moyes a bit of credit for that because I'm fairly sure I'm right in saying we've not played 4-3-3 at all in any competition this season to the best of my knowledge. Certainly not started with it. I'm fairly confident of saying that. So I think it showed a level of bravery to go away from home in a European tie against the most successful team in this tournament and change formation just like that. I think it showed a bit of bravery. The only thing that I'm sort of looking at and thinking, oh, could he done better with that? It's the usual thing. It's the substitutions.
Yeah, boys and substitutions is something I've had to be in my bonnet about for how long's he been around now? 3 years.
Yeah. Some substitutions you just sort of sit there and think that doesn't make sense, or it's happened too late for it to actually have that much of a discernible impact. So you're like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, initially it was why so late. He does like to take his time with substitutions. Originally, I thought it was because there was no options on the bench. I think there's a couple of good options on the bench now that he could bring on and use. Certainly, still a little bit too slow for my liking, but it's not like we've got a world beater on the bench or a backup striker, so substitutions are much of a muchness of what we've already got on the pitch. So I can understand why he doesn't.
Fair enough. Charlie, we're at the end of proceedings. We've obviously covered the ongoings at the stadium yesterday, and obviously we both feel that this tie is still in the melting pot. Before we wrap it up, give me your looking into the old crystal ball. How does this game play out next week at London Stadium in your view?
Yeah, it's such a tough one. There's so many. I hope we have Bowen back. Hopefully, if Bowen's back, which from all the sort of leaks and comments made by Moyes today, it sounds like he's going to be back. It sounds like he's going to miss Villa, which is fine. Not really fussed. If Bowen's back, gives us a bit more attacking flair. The atmosphere is going to be probably the best atmosphere. I'm hoping it's going to be the best atmosphere we've seen at that stadium since we've been there. I can't see why it wouldn't be. I think we come out all guns blazing, 10 minutes. If we get a goal, I think we go on to win. If we get a goal in that first 10, 15, 20 minutes, I think we go on to win 2-0 and get through. Maybe that's just being hopeful.
Fingers crossed. Well, I'm going to wrap it.
It's going to be a lot.
I'm going to have to wrap this up a bit lively because I've just been told that Russ Budden on West Ham Network is starting at 8:30, not 9 o'clock. I was told he was starting at 9. So I'm going to wrap it up there, Charlie. Thank you very much for making your debut on Forge, and we'd love to host you again down the track, my friend.
Yeah, no, cheers for having me, and I'll definitely jump on next time when I've got a bit of a steadier camera, better technology, and
Well, I'll
all my West
probably
Ham
see you
background.
Sunday, won't I?
Yeah, if my legs
If-
I can barely walk, but if my legs had decided to wake up by Sunday, I'm sure I'll be there.
Oh dear. Right. And before I wrap it up, guys, if I can just appeal to you, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share the stream onto your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support. Just one thing left to say. Come on, you Irons, and we go again to London Stadium on Sunday. Take care.